Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode. I'm so excited to have you here. We are in the process of going through my Burnout Breakthrough Accelerator that I originally put on for my students in the Quitter Club, my paid membership. I figured I would bring it to the podcast. If you are listening to this episode, then you have missed a couple. You can go back and listen to those. But we will continue every week to play one of the classes that will teach you a pillar of getting out of burnout, right? A skill that you need in order to kind of take back your life and have a little bit more time and joy and control. We will go through all 6 weeks, and you don't have to master all of them. You don't have to know all of them. You don't have to apply all of them, but you can pick up 1 or 2 skills that will help alleviate a lot of the pressure that we all tend to put on ourselves. So I hope you enjoy this. We're going to jump in and continue with our Burnout Breakthrough Accelerator. Hello, my friends, and welcome to our second week of the Burnout Breakthrough Accelerator. I'm so excited to have you guys here. The point of these classes is they're going to be shorter, kind of actionable things that I want you to do in order to get out of burnout, whatever kind of burnout that is, by the way. Like, I haven't defined burnout. I know it's a buzzword. It's a spectrum. It could be, if you were getting to the point where you're medically burned out, where you can't get out of bed, this stuff isn't even going to help. Like, you need to really shut everything down and give your body like intense rest. But for a lot of us, we're just running on fumes, and we have been for years or decades even. And so it really is just this deep level of exhaustion that so many of us feel. And a lot of it is just mental exhaustion. And some of it is physical, just the number of things that we have to do. If you weren't here last week, we did kind of a self audit of all of the things that we have on our never ending to do lists, all the things that we think we should do. I highly recommend doing that exercise because I think that is one of the starkest kind of realizations, reminders that what we hold ourselves to is impossible. And that is why we always feel as though we are behind. We always feel as though we're failing. We always feel as though we're not doing enough when that is not true. It's just simply this insane standard that sort of we've created and that we hold ourselves to. And so you can go back and listen to that and do that worksheet. I put the worksheets in the community as well, and just go through and answer those questions. So that was last week. This week, we're going to continue with a sort of self assessment. Before we kind of move on to all the things that I want you to do, to find joy and to set boundaries and to do all that stuff, we have to really figure out where we're the problem. Not that you are the problem, but that you add to your own suffering. I think for a lot of us, what I talked about last week is like society is going to place these standards on us. They're going to create, especially with social media, it's just becoming more and more of all of the things that you quote unquote should be doing. And so we cannot wait for society to be the one to tell us, like, you know what, you deserve a break, or you don't have to do that. You're good enough if you don't do all this stuff. We have to be the ones that reject it. We kind of hold ourselves. We voluntarily go along with these standards. And the only way that we're ever going to break out of burnout is for us to see the standard that we are holding ourselves to, is for us to see what we've internalized and become aware of that first. And so we're spending kind of these first 2 weeks really becoming aware of like the insanity that we have suscepted ourselves to, so that in the next couple of weeks, we can talk more about how we overcome that. Okay. So today's exercise is a relatively simple one, but hopefully it will be just as eye opening and not sad, but sometimes it is hard to see these things. So I just want you to answer one. I'm gonna ask you a question both for your home life and your work, and I want you to write down your answer to that, and then we're gonna revise it, okay? And so today's topic is impossible standards. So just like last week, where it was these impossible to-do lists, where it was more of like all the action items, everything we actually have to do. Today is more like, what is the impossible standard internally that I hold myself to, right? What is the impossible standard that I've set for myself? We want to uncover that so that we can change it. And so what I mean by that, what is an impossible standard? I want you to think about this, or I want you to write this down. When do you get to feel successful at work? Okay. And I'm going to explain to you what I mean by this. I want you to think about, when are you personally, not like your review, I mean, your reviews might be part of it, but like, will you pat yourself on the back and be like, you know what? I'm doing a pretty good job. I'm really good at this job, right? I want you to think about what would have to happen for you to be able to feel like that. Okay. And so you can interpret that how you can sometimes make sense of this is, you might think, what are all the things I have to do, right? What are all the things I have to do? And how well do I have to do them in order for me to feel like I am successful at this job? Okay. So that could be, I'm going to give you just some examples before I like send you on your way to write your own. Like, it could be things like, I get all of my to-do list done by the end of the day. I answer emails within an hour. I answer customers or something within an hour. I don't need to be told what to do, or I don't need to have it explained to me, or I don't have any more questions. I know what I'm doing. I always have the answer. Like, you have to think about how sometimes even things that are maybe not like, you might have your tasks, like, yeah, I have to get X, Y, and Z done. But also, what is the like, I should never need help. I should never need my coworkers to kind of pick up any of my slack. I should never have a question for my boss after he's already explained it once. I should know how to do it after the first time. I should never make a mistake. I should, but I should do all the tasks, but then take initiative and do X, Y, and Z to make them see how valuable I am. You get it. Like, we often, it's not only like, oh, I've been given these tasks and as long as I do them, I'm fine. We create these things for ourselves of like, I have to go above and beyond. I have to be this A plus employee. I have to, um, do what these other people are doing. I should go to like happy hours with my coworkers every day. I should create these relationships with them. You get the point. So take a minute and just write down all of the things that you think you have to do and sort of the standard by which you have to do them. Okay. Like, if you just complete your tasks, you likely won't feel successful. For a lot of you, it's like, I have to do it perfectly. I have to never make a mistake. Write all the things that you think you have to do in order to feel like successful. Where's that barometer? And then when you've done that, and you can keep working on it, I'll give you guys some time, but you're going to do the same thing for your personal life. When are you allowed to feel successful in your personal life? Now, that's obviously, you can break that up if you want, and you can say, like, when am I allowed to feel successful at home? And when am I allowed to feel successful in my, I don't know, friendships or however you want to do it. Or you can just do it kind of all encompassing, like, outside of work, when am I allowed to feel good about myself? Now, you can keep going with this, but I would love if you wanted to share either, like, I mean, you don't have to share part of your standard if you want, or just what has come up for you when you see this. Is it like, yeah, totally doable. I just need to like get through my to-dos, or I need to check off, these couple of things and then I feel successful. Or this is what I figured. It says, it's so exhausting to even look at. Yeah, that's what I imagine most people's are. It made me realize that I don't ever stop to even think if I'm successful. Interesting. Yeah. And that's sort of the point of the whole thing, is that when we have this nebulous concept of like, it's not good enough, right? But we don't know what good enough is. We've never even stopped to think about what would good enough be. It's always a moving target. It's always a moving goalpost. So no matter what you do, and I'm sure you've all have felt like this, where you accomplish something. You are working on a project, you guys have a deadline, you're, closing a deal, you're whatever, doing a presentation. And then you get there and you do it and it went well and everybody's happy about it and you get good reviews and you're happy for 4 seconds maybe. It's like 5 seconds of joy of like, "Oh my god, we did such a good job." And then we're on to the next, existential dread. We're on to the next, like, oh, okay, but now I have to do this. Now I have to do something else. And the thing is like, because there's never this place where we're like, where we have these internal thoughts of like, I'm so proud of me. I'm really doing a great job. Or I'm really like aware of all the things that I'm doing or all the things I'm juggling. We are never aware of like the 98 things we're juggling. We're always just aware of like the 2 balls that dropped. That's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I messed that up," and stuff. And so that creates really a debilitating, mindset because you're always only looking at your failures. You're always only looking at what you didn't do or your setbacks or how much more you have to give. And that is exhausting, which is why so many of us are exhausted. He says, the job stuff seems easy, not as important, but my life list requirement to feel successful are overwhelming, which is kind of surprising. Yeah. Again, this is also really good to like just notice, right? That is like maybe in the job stuff, like where am I holding more of this stress? Where am I putting more of the pressure? Where do I have these really crazy, outlandish ideas of all of the things I should be accomplishing? I also notice that I'm in other people's heads. Like if my standard is how other people think and feel, that is by definition out of my control. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so for a lot of us, we are constantly like, I will feel okay if someone pats me on the head, right? I will feel okay when I get that validation. I will feel okay if I get a glowing review. But again, y'all have gotten like that validation. You've gotten that glowing review. And even that is okay for like a second, for like a couple of, like a day maybe. And you're like, oh, everybody was happy with it. But then it's like, but, are they still happy or I have to keep it up or whatnot? So like when you have your standard be other people's thoughts, you're constantly going to have to chase their validation in order to feel good about yourself. And then you'll never actually know, how like so many of us think like, oh my God, my boss hates me or he thinks I did a bad job or she, got annoyed with me because I asked a question and we have no idea what actually went on in their head. And most of the time they don't care at all or they're not even thinking about you. Yeah, these are all really good. Okay. So the point of this exercise is truly just to see, have I set myself up for failure? Maybe some of you haven't. Maybe you're like, you know what? I actually have a reasonable standard for like what I have to do to feel successful. Great. I hope that you are just taking the time then to feel successful. And now that you guys have been in the club, you know that like that feeling comes from your thought. So if you are sitting and like truly having thoughts of like, I'm really proud of myself. I really did a good job. I really showed up this week. I tried my hardest and stuff. Great. You're going to feel really good a lot of the time, or you're going to feel better about your job. What I assume is that most of you don't have those thoughts because I didn't. And I think most people were, like I said, we're just focusing on what we didn't do, on the to dos that we didn't finish, on the mistake that we made, on the like, one encounter that maybe had our boss angry or whatever it is. And so we just ruminate over like when that customer was upset and whatnot. And so that is why so many of us feel so drained and tired. And you just want to like notice it. You want to see it. You want to realize if it's exhausting and impossible and never reachable so that you can change it. So you can become aware of it and create a standard, which we're going to do in a minute, that isn't impossible. I'm going to give you one anecdote that I just love telling this story because I just think it highlights it so well so you can get an understanding. I had a client in one of my previous programs, like he wasn't in the club. He was a doctor and he was a doctor at a cancer clinic that tailored to an underprivileged community. So people that normally weren't going to get this kind of treatment. And he was in a place where, not surprisingly, was understaffed. And he was like the only doctor. There were like, they should have been 3 doctors for the amount of patients that they had. And it's all to say that like this was truly a life or death situations. For a lot of us, we're sending emails. Like it's really not that deep. But even though it feels like everything is super important. I say this because I think even this concept is really important in an actual life or death situation. So this doctor that I was coaching was severely burned out. Okay. Not surprisingly, because he had been putting in way more hours than he should have been working. And he was working already in a very emotionally volatile kind of setting. And he felt very passionate about helping this group of people that otherwise wouldn't get a lot of this treatment. But he felt extremely burned out to the point where he was going to quit because he was like, this is affecting my physical health at this point. He was getting really sick because he was working so many hours. He had 2 young kids. He wasn't seeing his kids. Like every time they had like planned vacations, they would have to cancel because there was nobody to cover and all this stuff. And like the company, the business had kept promising to bring other doctors. Anyways, it was kind of a mess of a situation. But it's all to say, when we did this exercise together, and I was sort of trying to understand, we were trying to figure out like his burnout and we were working on that together. I had asked him, like, okay, what standard do you hold yourself to at this job, like with these patients? And as we kind of dug into it and talked about it more and more, we sort of realized that his standard was I have to save every patient. Okay. I have to save 10 out of 10 patients. Now, I don't have to tell you that that is an impossible standard. Even if you do everything right when you're dealing with cancer patients, some are unfortunately going to pass away from the disease because we don't have enough medical advancement to be able to stop every case. But so even under the best of circumstances where he had all the resources and he saw the appropriate amount of patients, he wouldn't be able to reach that standard, right? Now, obviously, it sounds like a very noble thing to want. Like you want to give your best to every single client, a patient that comes in. And obviously he's there because he has a kind of serving, giving heart that wants to help these people. So it makes sense that you go in wanting to give quote unquote 110%. I hate that phrase because there's no such thing. You cannot give 110%. And we set ourselves up to fail when we think I should be able to give more than I'm always giving, right? And so we started looking at as we talked through it, it was really apparent that like you can't do 10 out of 10. Okay. So if you haven't dealt with the reality that you're going to lose patients, and that doesn't mean anything you did was wrong, or that doesn't mean that it's your quote unquote fault, then you're already going to set yourself up for a lot of mental and emotional anguish. You're also going to burn yourself out trying to save every single person when there isn't enough time and resources. But part of what we were talking about was like, I was asking him, if you don't give a 10 out of 10, let's say we set the standard at 7 out of 10, not kids, like, let's just say, not people, but just like for yourself, how you show up. If you can feel successful, if you give 7 out of 10, that seems appalling to him. Like, at first, it was like, what do you mean? Like, I can't just like do a C work. I can't just like phone it in. And no one's saying you have to phone it in. But one of the things I was trying to get him to see was like, at the rate that you're going, you are going to burn out and quit. So then nobody is helping these people. Then it's 0 out of 10. You're miserable. Your life is in shambles. They're miserable and likely not getting the care they need. Everybody's miserable. But if we bring our standard to something that is realistic, that is something that I can try to hit every day, like this is what I can do. I can't see every patient. And that sucks. That is a very harsh, horrible thing to have to reconcile with. And yet I have to reconcile with it. If I can't see 3 other patients, and I don't know what's going to happen with their care, but if I can see these 7 patients, then that means I show up again week after week. And I'm here to see those 7 patients. I have to create a standard within the reality within which I live. Of course, we would love to save everybody and we'd love to help everybody. But I'm not in that position. He doesn't run the clinic. He doesn't run the budgets. He doesn't decide who gets hired or who doesn't. So all he gets to decide is how he's going to show up. And so much changed for him after we sort of did a lot of this work because it wasn't even as if like much, like some of he worked a little bit less hours wise, but it was simply this burden that he was carrying all the time and that he was beating himself up for not being able to get, and just shifting how he thought about how he was helping people changed the pressure that he was putting on himself, right? Allowed him to show up and be a human and not be able to get to everybody and still show up for his clients. And I remember when he was saying like, he said something like, well, wouldn't you want your doctor to show up as a 10 out of 10? Like nobody wants their doctor to be giving 7, out of 10. And I was like, I don't want my doctor burned out. I don't think you can give 10 out of 10 when you're burned out. I don't want my doctor like not sleeping at night and coming in and being extremely exhausted. And so he's likely making mistakes. obviously, like, I want care, and I'm not saying, again, in a perfect world, but we don't live in a perfect world. Like, you live in the reality that you have. So you have to decide within those circumstances, what is the standard? So, I mean, I've gone on, obviously, way too long on this, but I just think it's a good example of, like, yes, we all wanna be there's a reason we all strive for 100%. Of course, that would be great. If I could always be perfect, sign me up. But I can't, and I'm not going to be. I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna drop balls. I'm not gonna be able to see all the patients. I can't get to all the customers, whatever the situation may be for you. Okay, how do I deal with that? How do I change my thoughts around that? How do I feel about that? Because if my feeling is shame all the time or guilt, that is gonna drive me in the ground. If I can accept it, it doesn't have to be that I'm happy about that this clinic isn't funding more doctors and, like, some people aren't gonna get care. But if I can say, like, "Hey, I'm in this fight. I'm here to help these people, and I'm gonna show up and I'll help the ones I can." And that's all I can do. That is what my role is. That is my standard. The rest of it is out of my hands, right? It becomes so much easier to actually deal with. So, what we're going to do for this last part is, like, I want you to really just think about, and this might take a little while for you. Like, you can start on it here, but I want you to kind of revise it. Is I want you to think about what standard you want to set for yourself. Okay. What is a realistic standard for you to feel successful, first at work and at home? And I want you to think about things that you can hit regularly. What do you want to make your standard where at the end of the day, you get to think the thought, I had a really good day today. I'm proud of myself today. I did good work, right? Make it something that is realistic with your brain. Like, if it's like, oh, I'm productive for all the hours that I'm at work, likely not going to happen. It could be that, like, I mean, I don't want it to even be this vague where it's like, well, I tried my best. I showed up on time. I did the work I was supposed to work on, and then we'll get back to it tomorrow, whatever it might be, right? Or I got through as many to dos as I could. Like, maybe the standard isn't that I get through all the to dos, but is that I made an earnest effort to get through all of my tasks, and there will be more tasks tomorrow. You get what I mean? Come up with something that you're going to make conscious, that you get to decide with your brain. No, as long as I do this, we're good. Would you recommend against specific numbers for standards, or would you recommend setting them lower than you can hit? And then when you exceed it, you've done more than what's successful. For example, the number of cases we work each month is tracked by management, but I don't keep track. It's a great question. And I think that you have to see, I would play with it. So, one of the good things about this stuff is that I don't think this is like a set it and forget it one time situation. I think this, like, I want you to think about this. I just want you to start being aware of this. So I want you to let it evolve. So I would try, let's say, tracking numbers if you want, and see and do something that is manageable or lower than maybe the reason I say, again, it's not to say that you want to lower your standards. It's just that most of our standards are impossible. Most of us are at like 110%, which isn't going to happen. So this is why actually next week we're going to do B minus work. When I say doing B minus work, it's likely A work. You just in your brain are like, this isn't good enough, because we always think things are not good enough. So the reason why we do want to kind of have a standard that's a little bit less than what you think you can hit is usually because what you think you can hit is not realistic. Like, when I ask people to, like, put what they should get done in a day, it's not a realistic list of all the things they should get done. It's like what they should do in 3 days, you know? So in the beginning, yes, I would lower it based on go less than what you think you should be doing. But this is the reason I say I want you to play with it. If it stresses you out to track numbers, then that's not the standard you should go by. So everyone's going to be different. For some people, you're going to do that, and it's going to make you feel great. And you're going to be like, okay, as long as I get these 3 things done every day, or I work on these 5 cases, then I'm good. I get to feel successful, right? I can leave it at that. For somebody else, that's going to stress you out the whole time. But I will say that I think that the more, if you can give yourself some specific standards, it is easier for your brain to start understanding like how much you actually do and like feeling successful. Because again, when you do really like, as long as I do good work, what does that mean? Because your brain's going to always tell you it wasn't good enough work. It wasn't enough. So, like, what I started doing is I would, when I was doing my time blocking, like in the beginning when I did this, I would pick like my 3 projects my big projects that I wanted to get done for the week. And I'm not saying that they were huge projects. It might have been like recording a podcast or something. And then everything else was just a nice to have. If I finished those 3 projects, I got to feel good. I got to feel successful. My week was successful. It doesn't matter how much I procrastinated. It doesn't matter if one of the projects only took me an hour. It did not matter. Like that was my rule, was like you get the 3 things done, means we move the needle forward. We get to feel successful. We'll call it a week, we'll call it a day, whatever. And that was really helpful for me to see that like, hey, I can feel successful even if I work an hour a day. There's no like rules to this. Like I have to sit my butt in my chair for 8 hours in order to feel good about myself. And so I would recommend like having something though that you can be like, okay, if I can check at least these off, then I get to feel good. Then I get to feel in the beginning. Once you've kind of worked on this stuff, like I feel good about myself all the time. I feel like I'm successful even when I don't do anything. It's because I've just changed my thoughts a lot about how I work. So that's my long-winded way of saying, like, yes, I think that you can get really specific with the numbers and standards and go lower than what you think is appropriate for now. And then you said, right, so low to me, but only because I'm doing too much. Yes, exactly. I like that. Maybe like if I meet 75 to 80% of what I plan to do, then I succeeded. Yeah, I would definitely start there. You can always up it if you're like, no, I can very easily hit 75% every day. And so like now I really want to do like 90% of what I thought. Fine, up it. But just start a little bit lower so that you give yourself that wiggle room. Because I imagine even going at 75 to 80% is probably unrealistic. Like this is just a total, not in a total aside, but what thing you can do, like what we talked about, what are all the stuff that you should do last week at work? You can write down, like, what are the things I think I should be able to get done in one day and just see if that's realistic. Like, put down what an ideal day would look like for you. Like, if you thought, okay, this is the most successful day I can have, like, I get in at 8, and it's usually going to look something like everything is productive. You basically take no breaks. You have like a 15-minute, like you're, you know, powering through. None of it's realistic, but you want to look at it and be like, okay, this is what would normally take me 3 days to finish. So if my standard is I can't feel successful until I've done all of this in one day, I need to lower that by more than just 15% or 20%, right? Like I need to really get realistic that like this is going to be 2 days work in these 2 things. Yeah. And then do it for your personal life as well. Says I plan like the day has 48 hours. We all do. We all do. It's not just you. It's just everybody has been primed and programmed to think that they should be able to do way more than they actually can do in a day with the brains that we have. Like, I think for a lot of us, we think there's something wrong with me. Like, I'm not focused enough. No, like your brain just doesn't work like that. Nobody's does. We were not meant to sit and focus for 8 hours a day. It just cannot do that. And so when you realize that, like, yeah, Sarah says, yeah, I always plan like I'm a superhuman. We all do. And then what's funny is if something gets taken out, or let's say you lower that standard or you have more time, it's not as though you're like, oh, I was successful. I get to like relax. It's like, let's stick something else in there, right? Like if I all of a sudden have more time in the day, now I'm like, well, I should work out. Well, I just add another to do and then I make myself miserable. And so the whole point of this is to start reducing, is to start being like, I don't need to keep adding more things that I need to get done every day. And when you do this standard for both your work and your personal life, you'll see how insane it is because like you expect yourself to be superhuman at work and then you come home and then in the couple of hours that you have, you also have to be this productive robot. It's all so exhausting. Just looking at it is exhausting. So I want you to just spend some time and really figure out like what is a realistic standard that I want to be conscious about, that I get to feel good at the end of the day and be like, you know what? We gave it the good old college try. I'm proud of us. It says, I just saw a meme about the overachiever scam, which feels relevant. Yeah, no, it totally is. And what you can see now, I hope, is that it's no wonder that you would feel burned out. Like when you look at this stuff, it's no wonder that we all feel like we are driving ourselves into the ground because we are. because it's never good enough. We always have to do more. We always have to be busy. We always think that like we're failing, even though we're doing an immense amount of work all the time. And so the good news is that a lot of it just requires tweaking what you think. Like, you don't even have to change what you do. You just have to change how you think about it. Like, another way you could do this is just keep track of what you do in a day and let that be the standard. Be like, okay, I thought I was supposed to get to 5 clients. I only got to two. Apparently, I only need to get to two. That's my standard. If I get to two, I feel good, right? You can see like what is actually possible. He just says, please offer good news. The good news is that is actually good news because here's the thing. I think for a lot of us, we think that I have to get a different job. I have to be in a less stressful industry. I have to get a lot of help. I have to do all of these things in order to be able to like relax or, lower the stress levels. But you really don't. You really don't. You just have to stop demanding so much of yourself. You have to stop giving into these standards that people have given us. You have to start thinking for yourself and deciding what your standard is going to be. And the reason I say that is that you can do that wherever you are. So you can like have the business or, work as an employee and not constantly beat yourself up and not kill yourself and not come home and think you have to do a million other chores and create a life that isn't as burned out with exactly what you have. You don't have to change everything. You don't have to have a ton of money. You don't have to do anything else. Yeah, she's saying, but he says, yes, it's so empowering to see our points of power. I will just tell you, like from my own experience, I'm not saying this happened over a longer period of time, but I was the same perfectionist, always thought I had to do everything, loved a to do list, was constantly like beating myself up. And when I tell you, I really just nail it in most of the times now. And I feel perfectly proud of myself. I'm like, this is great. How little can I do and get away with it? Let's just see. Now I experiment with it. Cause I removed my own self-worth from the amount that I was doing. Like if I thought I did an experiment for a while because I used to feel really overwhelmed every day. And I used to always think I didn't do enough. And I wanted to just I did like an experiment for like 30 days where every day I just actively tried to think the thought and feel the feeling and like get into this thing of like, I did enough today. No matter what I did. Some days I didn't even do anything. And I would be like, that was enough. I did enough. I'm proud of myself for resting. I'm proud of myself for taking time off or whatever. It was fascinating. It fundamentally changed how I thought about everything. Like it didn't matter. I was like, oh, it could be a day where I did 10 to dos and I can think I did enough. And it could be a day that I did one to do and I can think I did enough. No, there's no thought police. Nobody's going to tell me that, like, no, you didn't do enough. I get to think what I want. And when I changed that after that, like a month and a half that I was doing that, I started really thinking, like, it doesn't actually matter how much I do. Like, I get to feel like this whenever I want. And that changed a lot for me, like how I thought about my to do list and what I wanted to get done. And, anyways, the last thing I will say is, you know that saying, like, what's the prize for winning the pie eating contest? More pie, right? What's the prize for overworking? More work, my friends. There is no prize. If you get all your to-do list done, if you go through 10 clients, guess what you're going to have tomorrow when you go to work? 10 more clients, more to-dos. The to-do list never ends. It's not supposed to. As long as you're alive, as long as you have a job, as long as you have a family, there will always be things to do. So if your goal is to always get to some like finish line, I just want you to know there's no finish line. So we can slow down. We can just decide like it's not a sprint. I don't need to do everything as fast as possible. It'll be there tomorrow. When I finish this set, it'll be another set. So I can go at my own speed. When I can slow it down, it becomes a lot more manageable. He says, that's so cool. Simply running those sentences through your brain, goalie, got that change. Yeah, it fundamentally changed. And that's why, like, that was actually, this is the last thing. Create 5 ladder thoughts to remind yourself of your standard as you go through your day. So after you come up with your standard, just create a thought that you want to practice every day. It has to be a thought that you believe, okay? So it can't be like, I did everything perfectly. Like, but it can be just, I'm so proud of myself. And you could just repeat that thought every day, no matter what you do. There's no requirement to have that thought, right? Or it could be that, like, I did my best today and I'm proud of that. And your best is going to be different based on what energy levels you have that day. So your best doesn't always look the same. Something like that. Like you're going to come up with a thought that's going to be simply accepting what you did and being proud of yourself. And just repeating that thought over and over again will start rewiring that neural pathway of like, I didn't do enough. I never get anything done. I'm always behind. I procrastinate so much. I'm not productive enough. Like we're just trying to replace those thoughts. So it's like, what can you come up with? Okay, that's what I have for you. All right. Go forth, my friends, and do 80% of the work. The best. No problem. I hope it helped. Bye, guys.